The first thing you're going to want to know how to do when you edit a file with Vim is you want to know how to exit it. :Q. You just type those letters right into the window and Vim will know you're typing a command. Now, what if you've accidentally changed the file while you were in it? What happens then? :Q now says no write since last change. Add bang to override. Bang is exclamation point in the tech world, so I'm going to say that tonight. :Q bang. Now, if I go back in there, my change is gone. Now, what if I want to exit a file and save my changes? :WQ, write quit. What if I'm editing a read-only file and try to make a change? If I call :WQ, it will say, hey, read-only option is set. Add bang to override. Well, then you would say :WQ bang. Now, if you're editing a file and you just want to save your work as you go, you just do :W for write. That will save your work in place. Now, sometimes you'll be editing a file that is constantly being updated, and like a log file, and you'll want to get the latest version of that file. You want to update the file you're editing without having to exit. Just :E. Now, if you've inadvertently edited some stuff while your log file is going, it's going to say, and you try to do a :E, it's going to say, hey, you haven't written since your last change. Add bang to override. And you'll be like, yeah. :E is also the way to edit your file, to throw out all of your edits that you haven't saved. So don't do that if you don't want to throw them out. :E says no write since last change. Add bang to override. :E bang. And you get your original version of the file. Now, you can add a different file name to :E. I want to edit some other file. Boom. I'm editing a different file. You can also add a file name to :W. I want to write other file. It says other file exists. Add bang to override. Write bang other file. Quit. The next thing you'll want to know how to do when you decide not to exit your file is moving around. You move around in Vim with the H, J, K, L keys. L goes right, H goes left, J goes down, K goes up. It seems weird. We're typing letters and we're not typing into the file. That's because that's not how Vim works. Vim has an insert mode when you want to insert text or when you want to make changes. When you're not in insert mode, your keys do other things. And the beauty of Vim is it's easy and fast to move around because of this. So one of my favorite key combos is :0. That takes me to line 0 in the file, the top of the file. $$ takes me to the bottom of the file. Very similarly, 0 by itself takes me to the beginning of a line, and $ by itself takes me to the end of a line. Don't worry, I'm not going to teach you too many of these commands because you simply don't need that many. 0, beginning of the line, $, end of the line. Now, if I have a long line, the easiest way to get to where I want to go in that long line is usually search. I just type / and what I want to get to in the line, like classic. That puts me right there. That's usually faster than moving my cursor or using the W key to go word by word. I almost never use the W key to go word by word. Finally, you can go anywhere in your file just by typing : and a number. That goes to that line number. This is very useful. You can always find your line number by glancing down here. You can see I'm at line number 425, but I'm in the character position 1. If I go to the end of the line, you'll notice it tells me how long my line is, 27. If the line number isn't showing, you can always type Control-G to tell you about your file, and the line number will show again. Once you are in your file, the very next thing you're going to want to do is know how to change text. The basic way we change text in Vim is insert. Notice it says insert at the bottom of my screen now. I'm in insert mode. Anything I type is not a command anymore. it's going in. Hit escape to stop inserting and make it good. If you don't hit escape, you're going to keep inserting all day long. Hit U to undo anything you did. Hit Control R to redo anything you did. But insert isn't the only way we insert text. We can also append text. A, that puts the text that I'm about to type after where my cursor is. It's a small thing, but you might use it sometimes. More interestingly, capital A starts inserting at the end of the line. Similarly, capital I always inserts at the beginning of a line. If you just want to change one word, CW for change word allows you to do that. If you don't like a word, DW, delete word, allows you to do that. The basic delete key is X. That deletes the character under your cursor. Capital D deletes to the end of the line. I'm using undo. If I want to delete to the end of the line here, capital D, boom. DW deletes word. Now, what if I want to insert a lot of text, like all of another file? Well, what I normally do is I hit O for open a line, and then Control R, meaning read this file, other file, boom. And it puts the entire file into your file. Undo. A lot of times what we're doing is we're simply making copies of lines. And there's a real easy way to do that in Vim. YY. That yanks the entire line. And I can put it back in my file using P for put. YYP. YYP. Now I want to take a second and explain a critical power you have with Vim. And that is anything I've shown you so far, you can put a number in front of and it will do it that many times. For example, if I say 6YY, well, I just yanked 6 lines. If I go down here and I say P, well, those 6 lines are put back in. If I say 20X, I just deleted 20 characters of the line. If I say 5X, I just deleted 5 characters of the line. It's important to understand that when you type a number as the first thing you're doing, you're telling Vim, I want to do whatever follows this number that many times. But we can do even better than that. And I use this constantly. Let's say I want to copy a block of code, or I want to copy a paragraph. What I do is I simply say MA. MA makes a mark, an invisible mark in the file. That way, if I'm anywhere in the file, I could say 'A and it'll take me back to that mark. I almost never do that. That's not what I use MA for. I use MA to make a mark of where I want to cut. I go to where I want to copy and I say 'A, comma, to here, dot, delete, space D. Oh, furious wipes, you deleted all that text. True, but I can say U for undo, and that text is still saved in my buffer, and I can P, put it elsewhere. I use this all the time. Now you can make a mark. I constantly reuse MA, mark A, and you can say yank, right? You don't have to delete. I'm just in the habit of deleting. I don't know why. And then you can put that elsewhere. Now you might notice that the code that I'm editing is in all kinds of pretty colors. Those colors are syntax colors. They show me that my code is correct as I'm typing it. You can turn syntax on or off. Syntax off. If your syntax is off, then Vim wasn't able to figure out what kind of file you're editing. It goes by the extension on the name of the file, in this case, .lua. Syntax, syntax on. Vim has syntax checking and coloring for almost every extension known to mankind. You just got to try it. A few minutes ago, I talked about using search to get to the end of a line. And now I want to talk more about search. Search starts with slash. Slash tells Vim you're about to type something you want Vim to find. All right. N finds the next thing, and the next, and the next, and the next. Shift N finds the previous thing. This is one of the most powerful functions in Vim, and it is probably worth the price of admission. Now, Vim supports natively regular expressions. You don't have to know anything about regular expressions to edit with Vim. I don't want to scare you away, but I'm going to explain a few. The most basic regular expression is $star. All right, find anything. But that by itself is not very useful. Let's say I want to find countershot, but I don't exactly know how it's capitalized. I kind of know, but I'm not sure. Find counter $star ought. That says find the letters counter, any letters in between or no letters in between OT. And that found my counter shot. And it finds counter and all the way to OT here. So it found that pattern by matching everything in between those two things. Another basic search regular expression you'll always use is beginning of line. Find at the beginning of line FSMB trainers. Okay? You will sometimes also use end of line. Find player at the end of a line. Remember, you have to hit enter at the end of each search. And N finds the next instance. Sometimes you want to find something backwards in the file, not just forwards. You can do that. Find, notice question mark is also find, but question mark is find backwards. And now when I hit the N key, it's going up in the file. If I hit Shift N, it's going down in the file because this is a backwards search I'm reversing. Now that you know how to search, you're probably going to want to know how to search and replace next. One of the most powerful abilities of Vim. It goes like this. Let's say I wanted to change the name of my global all through the file from FSMB to just MB. What would be the easiest way to do that? Colon, from line 1 to line last, substitute for FSMB, MB, and add a G at the end. The G is almost always used. It means global. That means if it finds that pattern more than once in a line, it makes the substitution every time on the line. 398 substitutions on 342 lines. Undo. Now, you might notice that in that find and replace command, we used the slash to divide the target from the replacement. Notice, substitute slash FSMB slash MB ending slash, and then we added a G for global. We could have left that G off, but then it would have only replaced the first FSMB in each line. What if we have to find and replace a lot of forward slashes? So let's say I want to replace my slash cast everywhere it appears with slash use. Well, this isn't going to work at all. Look at all those slashes. Vim is confused. Well, there's a few ways you can handle slashes, but one of the easier ways is just don't use slash in your find. You can use almost any character as the delimiter for the search and replace. I normally use the plus sign. That brings us to the most powerful thing Vim can do, and that is macros. You can very easily make macros to do repetitive tasks that you need to accomplish while editing your file. You make a macro as simply as typing qw. Q is actually what starts recording a macro. W is the name of the macro. You can name it any letter, but W is right next to Q, and I rarely use more than one macro at a time, so I always say QW. Let's say I needed to add a space between lines in this paragraph. I would say O for open and escape, and then go down one. That's the end of my macro. I'm going to hit Q to finish recording. Now at W replays the macro. At W, at W. Even better, at replays the last macro you ran. Holding at down replays a lot of macros. Now you can get really crazy. Let's re-record our macro. QW. We're going to add a space, escape, go down to the beginning of the next line, and now we're going to say at E. We just called another macro called E. And now we're going to end recording. Well, we called another macro called E, but we haven't defined what E does. What if we said QE and make that macro, the only thing it does is it calls at W. Now when we run at W, it will call itself over and over again. We've just made a recursive macro. All right, now we're getting down to the final nuances I want to cover. First, using the % key to go to the beginning and end of blocks in code. If Vim understands your code and has syntax on, it knows where blocks begin and end. So you can just hit Shift % to go between the beginning and end of if and end statements. You can hit Shift % to go to the beginning and end of matching parentheses. You can hit the % key to go to the beginning and ending of matching curly braces or square braces. It is very useful. So this one I only learned maybe 5 years ago in a 35-year career, and I've used it almost every day since. Wherever your cursor is in a file, if it's highlighting another file, you can instantly go to that file with GF, and you're in. You can return from that file with Control-6. Yeah, I know, really odd. GF is fine. That means go to that file. Control-6? That one's kind of weird. You just got to memorize that one. GF, Control-6. I use this every day. Now, there's one last thing I want to show you that truly makes Vim magnificent for me. And I do use this once in a while. And that is Control-A and Control-X. Control-A increments a number. Control-X decrements a number. So what good is that? Well, you can make extremely powerful macros with it. Let's say I needed to add 100 to each of these numbers. I would start my macro, QW. I would find a parenthesis with a digit after it. I'd move my cursor over, and I would say 100 Control A. Then I go down a line, go to the start, and end my macro there. Now at W, we'll add 100 to each of these lines every time I run it. Same with decrementing. Let's say I needed to subtract 50 from the lines instead. QW, find parenthesis with a digit. Go over 1. 50, Control X. Go down to the next line, go to the start, end your macro at W. That subtracts 50 from every line. I can't tell you how many times I have used this. It's really useful when you're making a numbered list and you simply want to increment the numbers, but that's beyond the scope of this tutorial.